Hi MR2 lovers. So today I thought I'd do a little video about how to fix your broken electric aerial. Some of you may have replaced your aerial with the DAB system, though my own has kind of a splitter on it so I can get DAB or normal radio stations on it. Personally, part of what I love about the MR2 is the fact that it's got pop-up headlights and that it has an electric aerial. Now those of you as old school as me will remember that an electric aerial was quite a posh thing to have once upon a time. Nowadays they hide them up. But I always thought it was kind of cool as a kid. It was one of those little attractions when somebody puts on the radio and this little antenna goes. Anyway, so my aerial, as far as I know, has lasted 20 odd years. And about a year or so ago, it just stopped working. It kind of came halfway up and got stuck, and I had to ram it back down and all sorts of hassles. Anyway, I discovered that here in England anyway, MR2 Ben up north, they sell one of these. It's basically a replacement mast with the geared plastic inside. I don't know if you can really quite see, but it has teeth on the edge. This goes round a cog inside the aerial housing and just basically winds it up and winds it down. I'm not entirely sure how the electrics works for this. Those of you who've wired up your own stereo head unit, you'll know there's a little black wire usually on the back. As soon as you turn your radio on, this goes live, sends the signal to the antenna, and the antenna will go up. Then when you switch off the radio, not sure what happens, a little bit of magic happens, and the thing retracts. Anyway, so I replaced my mast middle about a year or so ago. It was a bit of a hit and miss affair. It's fiddly, so I thought I'd make this video because I've actually had to do it a couple of times now. Around about 3 weeks after I first fitted my replacement, I've got this big car cover that lifts right over the car, and stupidly I had the radio on as I backed into the car cover and I bent the antenna, so I replaced it again. Only to find that a few months later this nylon inner actually pulled out, so the aerial could just lift up and down, it wasn't attached. So I sent it back to MR2 Ben, and bless them, they sent it back to the manufacturer, and here we are with the replacement. So the long and the short of it is I've done this 2 or 3 times now, and I thought for those who might want to fix their aerial, I'd do this little how-to video. There may be a slightly easier way to do it than I'm going to do it. The first time I did it, I tried to wind the entire thing around the cog inside the mechanism, and it just jammed. So then somebody mentioned online about getting it fed halfway in, turning on the stereo, or kind of turning the stereo off really, so that it retracted it in. This seemed to work fairly well, but it's a bit fiddly. You've got to have your radio on as you've got it all set up ready to go. You have to have a friend turn off the ignition or turn off the radio to make the thing retract. It is fiddly if you don't know what you're doing, and since there's no how-to videos, I thought I'd give you a few tips anyway. So if you want to try it, at least you'll see what it's like inside the mechanism. You'll know how to take the aerial off. Anyway, fingers crossed, I'll get it right first time. I won't have to edit too much. Okay, so here we are. I thought I'd introduce you to Mr. 2 right quick. This is my 95 MR2 Turbo Jap import. That's a border front which I modified a bit. And what do we have? Work VSKF wheels. Short those. Tom side skirts with modified winglets. Border scoop cut down. Then around the back we have inside. Okay, so to the aerial. Okay, so basically what you have is, if I move this blue tack out of the way, right, you've got 4 notches on here. There is a little tool, or you could make a little tool to undo those. What I've actually done myself, this should be finger tight. I used some parrot nose pliers with a bit of rubber in each side, and just got it loose so I can undo it with my fingers. Keep that bit, keep the rubber bit, put those to the side. Now it goes without saying that the mechanism's going to be behind this carpet, which actually just pretty much pulls down. Okay, so if I get in there a little bit. So to undo the rest of this now, it's this nut, if you can see that. I put a large washer on it because to get this to fit through my wing I had to adjust it a little and make that hole a bit longer. At the back here you'll find a plug which you unplug, and underneath you'll see this antenna socket which I've already pulled out, and underneath there's a drain which goes down through the floor. So just remains for me to undo this nut here, then the whole mechanism could come out. Take it apart and show you how to do that. Okay, so I've undone the nuts and just dropped this out. As you can see, there's a wire here that needs to come off, which is tricky one-handed, so I'll do that in a minute. I just want to show you that the aerial to the stereo slips on the front here. So slip that off, undo your nut, drop it out, take this plug off. I'm going to undo that, pause the video, and we'll go inside and I'll dismantle the thing, show you how it comes apart. Okay. Okay, so we're back indoors. We've got the whole unit off. As I say, here is where your antenna connects to the stereo. The harness connects to here, and you'll notice that it also pops into this little box here. Now, first thing that we've got to do to get this all apart is to take this carrier bracket off. So first off, undo this connector block, just set it to the side. We've got to undo this screw at the top, and this large one and this large one here. So I'm just going to go ahead and undo those now. Put that to the side. Then this other larger one. To the side. I've already partially undone this one. That comes out, and then you just remove the whole cradle, pop that to the side. So now I don't know how well you can see this. Get a bit of light. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 for this main cover. That centre one will have to come out after. Now we also need to undo this one to remove this mast, and I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to undo these 4. These are smaller than the other ones, so just put those to the side together. Like so. like I said, that just leaves one screw there and one there. We'll undo this one in a minute. Actually, we'll undo this one first. Now the thing about this one is on the other side, if you can just about see in there, there's a little nut that's retained in a sort of hexagonal shaped hole. So if you try and undo this with the screw pushed right in, it will just spin inside. So you need to pull it up so that nut is located and held. Pull it right out. I like to just push that nut out just so that you don't lose it. Keep that separate because that's a different size to the other two sizes. Okay, now carefully pull this. It has some sealant on it. You can probably see some gooey there. That's okay. Just pull that. You won't need to replace that. Okay. Put that to the side. That leaves us this bit that floats in there. That's what your white cord will coil up into. As I say, when I first did this, I tried putting the aerial all the way in and down, and then fed it through this cog in here. I'll show you that in a second. So I had loads of it here. I tried winding it all in here. It's fiddly as hell, and it doesn't work because it will jam up. So just pop that to the side. This cog here will just lift up or tip out in this case. Those teeth are what's this will wind around. It will locate into there, but we'll come to that in a minute. Pop that to the side. That's probably going to be quite greasy when you take it out the first time. Mine's not so greasy because I've done this like 3 times now. So the next bit, of course, is to feed this down through that hole. But one thing I found is at the bottom of here there's a tiny little hole that it's going to come through and through into this bit to go around the cog. Now because this is coiled and curved, it's not going to go through that hole. It just won't. So what we've got to do next is undo this screw. Put that to one side because that's again a different size to the others. Now what you'll find is this mast will now come out. Okay, I don't know how well you can see into there, but when you feed it through this, it's a big tube. You can just see, but it's not going to go through that tiny little hole. So you have to feed it through this mast first, and then just locate it into that bit in there, so that it comes into the main carrier where the gear is. Okay. All right then. So we can feed this into here. And then into this bit, and you'll see it start to appear through this bit. Okay, got the idea. Now we can put this mast back in. You'll notice the mast has a little indent there. That's where the screw is going to locate to. So wiggle that in, make sure you've got it good and straight. I'll pop that screw back in there and nip it up. Just give it a little wiggle, make sure it's centered. Okay, so we're in. is where it gets tricky, because we've got to fit that cog back in, getting it to bite on this, but we've got to have it in enough so that when it draws it in, the top of the mast will seat flush. First time I did it, I only had a little bit like that. I put it together, I had loads sticking out. I had to turn the radio on, connect the wire, turn the radio off so that it starts to draw in. But of course I had too much sticking out, so the aerial didn't go all the way down. I'm going to have to kind of wing it this time, because I've not done it. I did it right by chance the first time I did this. So I've had a bit of a think about it, and I think it's best to get this in enough so that the antenna's fully extended but in the right place. Then you'll know that you have enough here. I may even mark it, so I'm going to have a little quick test run before I record that. Okay, so I fed this in all the way, pulled it tight so the aerial is sitting flat, flush. Now what I'm going to do is gently extend the aerial so I get the aerial in exactly the right place. Pull it from the very end and just support it here. Okay, so I've got my tape measure on it. From where it comes into that cavity here, where my finger is, I've measured, give or take a couple of millimeters, 50 centimeters or 500 mil. Okay, so what we're going to do now is to fit this cog in, and the excess we'll put into this carrier. Okay, so let's give this a go. Okay, so make sure the teeth are facing inward. Put your carrier on. It's a bit fiddly. You might have to pull it a bit, but it should, with a wiggle, go home flat. Now, you can see, just bending it round. So, where my thumb is, there's a little ledge there, if you can see. It wants to go against that ledge. Now, I've got the carrier, putting that over the end. And it fits roughly in place. It'll be held when we put the cover on. So now just feed that in. Try to make sure you keep it at the bottom, right down flat. Okay. Now we'll fit the cover. Flat edge at the top. Just slip it over, and we're together. Next, pop in the 4 screws. On your first try, you might actually just want to pop in a couple of screws, try it on the car. If your antenna is not positioned correctly, if it's not in enough, you can add a bit. If it's in too much, you can pull a bit out. I'm just going to go for it. So if you can see, I've put this one, and the two that stick proud a little. Okay, so before we put the carrier back on, we have to deal with this central bolt here. Pop that in. Now we've got to put this little nut, if you can see, back in that hole, but it is fiddly, so because we have to locate it flat, if you can see, flat into the little hexagon in the bottom. Now what I do, you'll have 3 screws left over at this point for the carrier. Now a trick that I found is to pop one of them in and hold it there while you do up a screw on the front, because that holds the nut into the little retaining bit, so you can screw this up all the way, nice and tight, and then just take your screw out after. Okay, so that's in tight. So the next bit is to put the carrier on. Now you'll notice it has this bent piece at the top. Now that fits down between the motor and the mast. Let me just check something. Yeah, make sure that this wire is on the inside of the bottom right leg there. You'll see why in a minute. Now just line the carrier up like so, put your screw in and do it up. Yep. Then the other bottom corner. And do that up. Make sure they're both nipped up nice and tight. And then the top one here. Okay, so that's all the screws back in and the antenna in the up position. Right, flip this over and connect the center plug in like so. And that's pretty much it. That will connect into the harness in the car. This drain pipe will go down through a little hole in the bodywork in the bottom of the boot, as you'll see, and then we'll connect the antenna wire that goes to the stereo. So next stage is put it in the car and fingers crossed that it worked. Okay, so we're back at the car. It's easier to get this to wind itself in by having the aerial extender, which means putting this through the hole like so. The next thing I do is the drain pipe. There's a little hole located going down through the bodywork through a grommet. Push it down through that first. I'm not going to connect the wire to the loom just yet. What I do is just get this all in position first. Put too much drain pipe through, right? Okay. So if I bring you closer, you can see I've got that bolt through now. As I say, I had to adjust the hole a bit, so I have a large washer that goes on there, then the nuts. Okay, let's pull a bit of slack on that drain pipe. Your aerial wire now needs to connect onto the mast. If you can see that, okay. It's on. I'm going to connect the wire up in a minute. I want to put the stereo on first so that it's sending the up signal as we're already up. So I'll just locate those two wires close. Okay, I'll pause it for a minute, turn the stereo on, and we'll connect up. Then when I turn the stereo off, it should retract into place. Okay, so this is the aerial sticking out. I'm going to put the rubber on the aerial first, like so. Just locate it in position. Then this piece on the top. And I'm just going to do it finger tight, just in case I haven't got the antenna in quite the right position when I fed it in. So everything's held in place. As I say, I've not connected the power connector yet because I want the radio on before I connect that, so that when I switch the radio off, it'll give the retract signal, and the antenna should, with fingers crossed, go right down to its seated position. Okay, so my radio is on, and I'm just going to connect up this loom now. A little bit tricky. Okay, so that's connected. So hopefully when I turn the stereo off now, it should retract. Okay, so what we have is, I did it twice, but it's sticking out by about this much. What's that, about 10, 20, 30, about 40 mil. So this is why I say don't put the thing together fully to start with. I actually did, hoping I was going to get cocky and it would work first time. So all this means really is that I'll take it back out, dismantle it again, and instead of pulling 50 mil through, I'll pull about, say, 90 mil through, and we'll try it again. As I say, it's a little hit and miss. I like you, I'm still kind of learning, but I thought this would give you some clue. Right, so I'll put you on pause, I'll go redo all of this, and we'll see if it works next time. See you in a minute. Hi, I'm back. Okay, so something very interesting here. As you saw in the last clip before I paused, the antenna didn't go down by around about 10 mil. So what I thought it was is maybe I hadn't fed enough through. So where I said leave 50 mil, actually I allowed 60 mil, put it all back together, tried it again, and it did exactly the same thing. Now it occurred to me when I took it apart, I thought I'll take it apart with the antenna fully down and see what this looks like fully in the carrier here. Now the strange thing is that it seemed that when the aerial was about sticking out 10 mil more than it should, this carrier was actually full. So why it was stopping soon before it fully seated down was because there was nowhere left in this carrier for this nylon to go into, so it basically jammed itself. So I thought, oh, that's very interesting. So I've retried this while I was off camera. Believe it or not, this is way too long, way too long. The first one that I did a couple of times ago wasn't. It seems that this is. So what I've actually done, I've taken 17 centimeters off, or 170 mil. This still leaves plenty. I've got the aerial completely up. If I show you here, you can pull that bit out. You'll see it's got two like little tabs on the edges there. Push that as far as down as it will go. Make sure it's seated and hold it with your fingers. Then pull the aerial as far as it will go. Now that's fully extended. Now bear in mind it's fully extended. As you can see, we still have a lot of excess here. This is about how much I remember when I did this before, from the point of entry there, when this cog is out. We're looking about 35 centimeters, 350 mil. So I think this is enough. So make sure you've got your aerial fully extended and properly seated home there. See how much excess you've got left out. I'm leaving 35 mil just to make sure it's got started on itself, otherwise you don't want it jam in or go under. So I think 35 mil is enough, and I cut off what was left. Don't know why that is, but these things are sent to try us. So I've seated my cog back in, giving it a jiggle, it's sit flush. Put the carrier over, and I'm just going to feed it into the carrier, making sure that it's all the way down to the bottom as you go round. The very last bit doesn't matter. What you want is for the end bit to go above the previous turn in there. Okay, so I'm holding that in place, putting the cover on with the flat edge towards the motor, obviously. Snap, that's on. Okay, I'm going to put the center bolt in, because as I told you there's a knack with that. So actually pop the nut in first in the back, jiggle it till it sits flat, or just poke it flat. It's got to go into a little hexagonal, can't see which way to turn this, a little hexagonal indent in the bottom. Pop in one of your big screws just to hold it in that indent, so that when you put the front bolt in, you're pressing up onto the nut underneath to hold it into the retainer so it doesn't turn. Just do this up. All the way nice and tight. Yep. Okay. You've seen this already, but just in case you missed it. So it's those four holes, the two raised ones. Do those up. Like so. Hands are in the way. Okay. Then this one just by the mast. And this one in the corner over by the motor. Then the carrier on with the hook at the top. Make sure your wire, if you can see which way we, make sure your wire is inside that bottom right leg. Okay, pop that in, get that done up. I don't quite do it tight till I've got the other corner in, otherwise it might not line up. Like so. Sorry if this video is a little bit dark, by the way, it's just not very good light where I'm working. And as you can see, I was thoughtful enough to put a blanket, well, a sheet on the floor so I don't get grease on the girlfriend's carpet, because she does get the ump about things like that. Okay, so we're all done up. Flip it over, be careful because your antenna is fully extended, so don't go bending it, not at this point. You can see that comes out by that bottom leg. Yeah, just bend it round, pop the middle one in, and that's sorted. As I say, this bottom piece coming out here is just a drain hole in case any water gets in. That pokes through the floor through a rubber grommet. This one at the back will be where your harness plugs in, and on the mast itself is where your aerial lead to your radio will go. So I think we're all home, we're all good. Don't know why that's too long. I might have to write to MR2 Ben about that, but anyway. So we're ready to pop it back in the car. I'm going to put you on hold or on pause. Pop this all back in. As I say, before I connect the power, I turn the radio on, so it sent the signal to go all the way up and extend, so that when I do plug it in, because it's already extended, then I can turn the radio off and it will wind the aerial down correctly. Okay, so I'll see you outside. Okay, so as I was just saying, that's worked perfectly. Seems like the cord is too long, so just to give you a quick demo, so it's in the up position, radio was on, I've just connected it back there, so it's already sent its go up signal. I'm going to turn the radio off. Here we go, retracting. Bingo. And it sits nice and flush so no water can get in. So that was interesting. As I say, I'll write to Mr. Ben, MR2 Ben I should say, and let him know about that. He could forward that on to the manufacturer. But if you buy one of these, they're about, the replacement middle is about £35 or so, somewhere in that region. So anyway, I'll let him know to pass that on. But if you do buy one, just do what I said, fit it all in, extend the aerial, make sure the bottom is seated home, and see how much of that white cord you've got out at the bottom. 35mm seems to be perfectly enough. You could probably even nibble a tad more off, but it's working at 35, so I wouldn't take more. And that is that. That's how to do that. So we've got the drain pipe in at the bottom. I've connected the radio aerial wire onto the mast. We're secure. The top is done up. So that's it. Tuck it all away. Simple as that, really. And that's it. I hope this helps you. As I say, it is nice to have an electric aerial. Let me show you what it looks like when we so it takes a minute for my head unit to send that signal, so bear with me a minute. There we go, up through my spoiler. Perfect. I'm going to turn it off. Bingo, job done. Okay, thanks for listening, watching. If you're into MR2s, then get in touch, join us up on Facebook. Look up MR2 Mark II, one word, M-A-R-K, MR2 Mark II. That's a world scene group. And my other group is MR2 Social, which is MR2 SOC IALE, MR2 Social. Both world scene groups, so it doesn't matter where you're from in the world. Okay guys, thanks. Okay, I thought I'd add a little Easter egg to the end of the video. Just show you a few more details. Jap speed, 4-inch exhaust. The downpipe is a Burke flexible downpipe, has a bigger bell mouth, allowing the turbo to open that little bit more and a bit quicker. These GoPro cameras always seem to make things look kind of bigger than they are. The wing looks enormous as I'm looking at the screen, but actually looks really alright on the car. I'm going to walk around. Oh, I forgot to mention the roof blade. Worth noting if you're in UK or Europe indeed, as he ships, but Nigel Smith on Facebook. I bought quite a few parts from him. The side scoops, Phoenix Power spats. The roof blade's an authentic one, but I happened to buy it off him. He made the bottom part of my Tom's winglets. This little bottom bit I added here to balance that part of the border front. He also made this front for me. Yeah, he made the border front, but I blocked off the holes and put a kind of a little blade in there and a couple of quad lights. And a bit unusual to the border is this pointy bit here, which I had Nigel add on for me as a little special order. That's taken from a Duluck. Well, it's inspired by a Duluck kit. Yeah, so that's about the size of it. Okay, thanks for listening. Take care. Bye for now.